What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we're going to be discussing if Bungie is making our characters weaker in the Edge of Fate expansion. Now, we're doing so because the Edge of Fate is fast approaching, and therefore Bungie is releasing more information on rebalances, buffs, and nerfs. In the most recent weekly update, Bungie revealed that they are indeed nerfing a lot of the most popular abilities in the game. So if you go into the comment section of, pretty much any video or tweet about the subject, everyone in there is, why does Bungie hate fun? Why are they doing this? Why are they nerfing their funnest, best stuff? Why are they making us weaker in the Edge of Fate? Shouldn't we go into a new expansion and have a lot of fun and be at our most powerful? But is that actually the case? In this video, I want to go over exactly what will happen to your character, to your build, on the Edge of Fate launch day. So we're not going to be talking about going out and getting new armor with new set bonuses, blah blah blah. No, we are talking about your character, exactly how it is right now. You log into the Edge of Fate in this brave new world of Armor 3.0, a new stat system, etc. Are you weaker or are you stronger? Well, let's get started. So, first of all, let's talk about stats. There is a massive stat overhaul. What does that actually mean for your character? Well, first of all of your stats will transfer 1-to-1, so you will not lose a single stat point. Whatever stats you have right now, you will have in the Edge of Fate. However, 3 of them are going to be different, and that is the fact that mobility, resilience, and recovery are all going away and being replaced with new stats. So, mobility is turning into the weapon stat, which will influence how much damage you deal against minor enemies. Resilience is turning into the health stat, which will influence how much health you get from picking up an orb of power, and recovery is turning into the class stat, which will influence how fast your class ability recharges. However, that's actually not the only change that will instantly happen to your stats. So, on the build I'm showcasing right here, which is a Prismatic Grenadier Titan, I actually have Spirit of Armamentarium plus Spirit of Inmost Light. I actually think this build is very underrated, I like it a lot, but regardless, I'm wanting to throw my grenades as much as possible, and therefore I have 100 Discipline. But, in the Edge of Fate, on launch day, I will actually have faster recharging grenades than I do right now. Now, why is that? Well, as you can see right here, Bungie is rebalancing the stats and higher stat investment. So if you get to 70 to 100 of a certain stat, you'll actually find that they recharge, they have a bigger impact than if you have 70 to 100 of that same stat right now. On the flip side, if you have low stat investment, so you can see I have only 30 intellect, I should find that my super in the Edge of Fate is recharging a little bit less than it is right now. So, the stats that you have invested in, and again, like discipline, strength, etc., if you have 100 recovery turning into 100 class, you will get your class ability, grenade, melee, whatever, more often in the Edge of Fate than you do right now. So, for a lot of builds, that is going to make them stronger right off the bat. Now, there's more stat changes that will impact your build immediately. One of which is that you no longer need to get to multiples of 10. Every stat is going to matter. So I have 18 mobility, I have 1 tier of mobility, but in the Edge of Fate, I'll have actually 18 weapons, which is better than 17 weapons. So again, I have 81 recovery. The 1 is doing literally nothing right now, but in the Edge of Fate, 81 class it'll become will be better than 80 class. So if you are someone that doesn't have those direct multiples of 10, maybe you have like 78 of a certain stat, you have 88 discipline, something like that, you should expect to get that ability more often because it'll count those extra stats. They won't just be wasted stats. On top of that, you can now go above 100 for additional effects. So you can see I have 101 resilience. That's turning into health, and in the Edge of Fate, if I get above 100 health, it will actually give me more shield regen, right? So it's going to be a slight effect because it's only one extra stat, but I will get that bonus. And yes, every single stat has a unique bonus for going over 100. For the weapon stat, it's going to influence how much damage you do against bosses. Again, for health, it can influence shield regen. For class, it's going to give you an overshield when using your class ability. And then for grenade, it's going to influence how much damage your grenade does, like bonus damage. For super, it gives you bonus super damage. And for melee, it gives you bonus melee damage. So again, if your build right now, usually people stop at 100, but let's say, you know, on the Warlock, you have a lot of recovery, you have 108 recovery, right? Like, that's turning into class immediately, and you will have those 8 points actually now affecting the strength of the bonus over 100 overshield that you're going to get for popping down your class ability, right? So that's something that may impact you, again, right off the bat on launch day. But there's one more stat change that's going to impact you immediately as soon as you start playing, and that's going to be the change to effects that give you ability energy. That energy is now influenced by how much of a stat you have. So here's what I mean. You have a weapon with Demolitionist. Right now, if you get a kill, you get a chunk of grenade energy back. But in the Edge of Fate, that chunk of grenade energy will be more if you have more grenade stat discipline right now. And Bungie said that the equalization factor is around 70. So if you have 70 discipline in the Edge of Fate and you get a kill with a Demolitionist weapon, you're gonna get roughly the same amount back that you are right now in the game. But if you have more than 70, so with my Grenadier build, if I have 100, I'm actually going to be getting a bigger chunk of grenade energy back from Demolitionist than I do right now. So this has wildly different effects depending on your build, but if you're specializing in certain abilities, if you have 100 strength on your melee build and you have anything that gives you melee recharge or even ability recharge, you're going to be getting your melee significantly more often than you are right now. On the flip side, the biggest negative effect and the thing that the community has been most upset about is with the Gambler's Dodge for the Hunter. That, right now, instantly gives you your entire melee back if you use your class ability near enemies. In the Edge of Fate, you no longer have to use it near enemies, so that's a bit of a buff, but the downside is that it's going to give you an amount of melee based on your strength stat, aka melee stat. So again, if you're a melee build that actually wants full strength, especially if you're going over 100 to get that melee damage bonus, then you're going to be getting even more melee energy back now. If you have melees that have multiple charges, you're going to be getting like 1.5 charges now in the Edge of Fate. So that is a benefit to you. But for a lot of builds that are not spec'd into strength, that is a significant downside. They're going to be getting just a little chunk of their melee energy back. But again, this is something that will impact you right off the bat, day one launch day. And actually, there's one more big change involving stats that will impact anyone using a prismatic build with an exotic class item. And that is the fact that all exotic class items will be changed into the Armor 3.0 versions within the Edge of Fate. So what does that mean? Well, they're gonna look like this. Yes, you're gonna gain a massive amount of stats, like 70 extra stats if you have an exotic class item just for logging in. Now, this is because class items in general in the Edge of Fate will have actual stats. They're going to be like every other armor piece instead of just having nothing like they do right now. But instead of having to go and regrind those exotic class items, which can be brutal, Bungie again is instantly updating them. So you will lose your Artifice Armor mod slot, but you'll gain way more than that. Now, the actual archetype of the armor, there's 6 different archetypes, that's going to be determined by the left perk, and then the tertiary stat will be determined by the right perk. So I have Spirit of Armamentarium in my example, I'm probably going to get that tertiary stat being my grenade stat, right? So again, you might want to go in with a prismatic build using an exotic class item because, you know, we talked about getting above 100 for stats. So you're probably going to get above 100 just because of all the extra stats you got from your class item. And this also means that when you first start playing, basically whatever the first class item drop is, even if it's, you know, tier 1 and terrible, just put that on because you're probably going to get, again, a massive bonus to stats. Now, one more thing that could impact you right off the bat is actually the new gear bonuses coming in the Edge of Fate. Now, that doesn't sound like it makes sense, but hear me out. So, as you can see right here, the seasonal artifact is being updated with the ability to provide a weapons damage bonus or damage resistance based on how much new gear you're using and the tier of that new gear. So if you have a tier 1 brand new weapon, you're only going to get around 2% bonus damage. But if you have a tier 5, it goes all the way up to 10% bonus weapon damage for that particular weapon. And the same thing for armor. If you put on all tier 1 armor, you're going to get, you know, around 3%, 5% damage resistance. But if you have all tier 5 armor, you're going to get around a 15% damage resistance bonus. These are very important stats that you're gonna want to get. Now, in case you're wondering, these will actually be disabled for the day 1 raid for the Edge of Fate, right? So you don't have to panic and change your entire build around before the raid. You can use your best stuff right now and it will still be just as viable. However, the reason I'm bringing this up, because you're probably thinking, how will this impact me when I log in, is because of the featured exotics feature. Now, what this is to prevent pigeonholing you into only using the brand new exotics and limiting the amount of builds available. Bungie has a bunch of different featured exotics. Some of these are all the way back from Destiny 2 launch, like the Graviton Lance. These will count with the new gear bonus. So what that means, what that should mean, is that you log in the Edge of Fate. If you're using something like a Graviton Lance, like the Choir of One, which is actually being sold for free at Xur right now, then you should actually get a new gear bonus with that exotic right off the bat. So you could literally log in, you're just about to do the Edge of Fate campaign, right? You don't have anything new, but your Choir of One is doing 10% more damage than it is right now because of the new gear bonus. Because I believe exotics would be counted just as a tier 5, right? Because there's no tier system to exotics. And likewise, if you're using any of the featured exotic armor pieces, you should get a damage resistance bonus despite not having any other new armor pieces, right? So again, that is actually something you should consider affecting you on day 1. So with all of that being said, guys, for the vast majority of builds out there, for any builds that are speccing into 100 of a certain stat because they want that ability back as fast as possible, right? Anything with 100 discipline, 100 strength, if you're a warlock with 100 recovery and you want your class ability back, all of those builds are getting outright better in the Edge of Fate, outright more powerful. Your abilities will be recharging faster, and you will be getting more chunks of those abilities from any effects that recharge abilities, right? You're also going to, for a lot of prismatic builds, instantly get a massive chunk of stats, which will start giving you, the over 100 stat effect for a lot of things and other bonuses, right? So again, like if you just looked at exactly what is happening for a lot of builds, for grenadier builds, for melee builds that have strength, like again, all of that stuff, you should just be getting your abilities back faster, and if you can get above 100, those abilities are getting just pure bonus damage. We then get into the nerfs, guys, because essentially What I just explained is what I think Bungie realized and probably found during playtesting is that, oh my goodness, everyone is getting so much more powerful in the Edge of Fate because of these stat changes, we need to do some nerfs. And therefore, melee damage is being calculated differently. It's now additive instead of multiplicative, so every melee build has a big question mark beside it. Essentially, if you're a melee build that stacks a bunch of different things that improve melee damage together, you're probably going to be doing less damage. But if you're a build maybe like a Liar's Handshake Hunter build that just kind of uses combination blow plus Liar's Handshake, those are getting big buffs to damage. Because Bungie, again, is changing the calculation, all of the increased melee damage things in the game pretty much are increasing your melee damage by a lot more. So if you just rely on a few effects, your build could be a lot more powerful. But again, for a lot of melee builds, this is still a nerf. Another big nerf, again, is to all those different prismatic aspects and a lot of prismatic abilities. Bungie is like preemptively nerfing that stuff. You're going to be losing some fragment slots. Now, you're going to be gaining, again, the ability to go above 100, gain damage bonuses for Grenadier builds, guys. Again, like my Prismatic Grenadier build, getting that 65% damage bonus now potentially from 200 grenade stat could be wildly effective, right? But undoubtedly, there are going to be some builds that are worse off in the Edge of Fate because of these nerfs, despite maybe gaining some power from these stat changes. Also, there are just some combinations of stats, if you have them right now, that are going to be significantly worse in the Edge of Fate, with the main example being hunters who relied on their class ability to get their melee back and have like no strength. Yeah, they're not in a good spot, guys. And so look at the builds you have available. If you have a build that you like that wasn't impacted by these nerfs, or maybe you're just losing one fragment slot and you can do without one, it's probably going to be more powerful. You're going to get your abilities outright faster. Everything that you have 100 stat in, or just above 70 frankly, you're going to get back faster in the Edge of Fate. And again, if you have prismatic builds, expect 70 more stats. Like, expect to already be getting bonus grenade damage, bonus melee damage, and overshield when you use your class ability, just because of all of the bonus stats you are getting from your class item. So again, guys, like, the overall narrative that everyone is weaker is frankly not true. Some of the very good builds might absolutely be weaker, and especially the melee builds, because they're just changing so much. There's a big question mark on those. But for a lot of builds out there, man, they're just going to be getting their stuff back faster, get bonuses they didn't have access to before. They're going to be better. So again, keep that in mind going into the Edge of Fate. Guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.